Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome back to episode number 4 of our RP-1 Kerbal Space Program Foundations series. We are back at it after last episode where we primarily focused on finishing up one of our programs, getting the necessary funding, coming through, and designing our first orbital rocket that we'll be using to complete our orbital contracts. Now into this episode, we're going to make more progress towards that goal, but also finish up some of the stuff we have remaining, which is specifically early rocket development. We need to complete the 3,000 kilometer and 4,500 kilometer downrange contracts, and to accomplish this, we're going to have to design a rocket that will be able to take a object that will go that far downrange, which is going to be quite a task considering our technology. So in that regard, we're currently waiting on basic rocketry. We're about 55 days off of that, and we are building the Alpha Series launch complex, and that will be done in 232 days. That is taking a sizable chunk out of our current budget, so we got to keep that in mind. And we're going to need a lot of funds to tool and build out the Alpha Series, so we're going to have to stockpile as many of that as possible. And also, we need to begin researching both early avionics and probes and satellite era science for the contracts as well. So that's all going to take quite a bit of time on top. However, let's have a look at what we could design with basic rocketry to achieve our aims. If we have a look at basic rocketry, it should give us some options to give us a better rocket, or at least the first stage, to be able to propel, because the V2 is just not going to cut it anymore. Especially for 4,500 kilometers downrange. So we have a look at basic rocketry. We get access to the S2. We get access to improvements in RD-103, but we also have the NAA-75 and the RD-200. Now the NAA-750 is pretty expensive, but would be able to achieve most of our aims, and it will provide a significant amount of performance. This is the engine that was used in Mercury Redstone. You can see that on screen now, which put the first American in space. However, it's a little bit expensive when we're going for a more Russian path in terms of our engines. As you can see here, these engines are not cheap. 148,000 to unlock the RD-107 and 108. So that's a lot of cost that we need to keep in mind. So I think that the best thing to do might be to kind of do a Scud. We take an RD-103, maybe an RD-102, and we make a Scud missile. Now, as you see on screen, this is kind of what we're going to go for. We're going to go for basically an R5. An R5, an enhanced R5, which uses the RD-1000, which is the Soviet version, and we're going to use the RD-101, which has the highest ISP. It is going to cost us 10,000 funds to unlock. We already have access to 1.65 diameter, so we're going to use 1.65. We're going to use new stringer tanks on this design. We're going to create a hollow cylinder because we want to make it uniform and nice and bottomed out. But yeah, we're going to use the 1.65 because we've already tooled for that diameter. So we're going to do this. But this RD-101 should give us enough performance for what we're looking for, ideally. Bring that up a little bit so that we have the engine coming out, which is kind of what I want. And then we're going to just bring the inner in again. There we go. And then in regards to, we're going to actually just put a thrust plate on. So just length, change the inner out until we get to the diameter of the nozzle. And then this we can just do inner like that, and then we can just offset up this to cover the engine. There we go. Then we're going to add in a normal tank. And we're going to make sure that is stringer tank, which is the new conventional tanks we have, which are a lot lighter weight. You look at fuselage, that gets 60 kilograms, this gets 40 kilograms, so about 50% less mass, dry mass, which is quite significant when you think about it. So we're then going to add in avionics. We're going to need, this is probably going to be about 20 tons, I would imagine. So 1.65, we're going to go for, maybe not 20 tons, it's probably more like 15 tons. And we'll upgrade the V2 complex for this as well. Fill this, so we need, how long can we burn for? We can burn for 85 seconds, that's actually pretty close. So 85 seconds, so that's perfect. So we're about 18 tons actually, that's pretty sizable. And then we're going to adjust, this to have, no, that's enough electric charge. We're going to add in a hollow interstage. Again, we're being very basic with these rockets because they only really serve one purpose, and then the launch complexes will be scrapped after said purpose is complete. So hollow interstage, and we're going to do that. And we're going to add some fins to the bottom of this because, again, it's a V2 error guidance, which means that you need fins, otherwise it really is not going to do too good for you. We're going to give about 15 millimeters of thickness. We're going to bring up the fins to about here, down, get rid of the trailing edge, and we're going to do something like that. Then for the second stage, because we're at about 4,600 meters per second of delta V. Now, to achieve our objective of 3,000 kilometers downrange or 4,500 kilometers downrange, we need to go about 6,000 meters per second to 7,000 meters per second. So not exactly orbital, but very, very close, right? We're getting to those kinds of speeds. We're going to put in the S2.253. This historically was used on the R11 ballistic missile, and would later be known as the Scud. It's a, relatively speaking, pretty effective engine. Unfortunately, it does use high pressure on the initial variant, and so we're just going to have to keep it as is. So we're going to use conventional tanks because that's all we have. And stringers, we have a burn time of 95 seconds. So we do actually have a pretty long burn time on this. However, again, we do need to use the high pressure tanks, which, as you can see here, are much higher dry mass, much higher. So we're just going to insert this into the engine, like around here. So we'll do length, inner, something like that, and then we're going to add in the actual tank, which will hold the fuel. There we go. Then we need to add avionics. We don't need, because this is gimbal, we do not need RCS for this, and we're just going to hot stage it. Again, we're just trying to lob something very, very far away. What we're basically talking about here is a medium range ballistic missile, or theater ballistic missile, is the kind of capability we're looking at generating here with this rocket. So that gives us 71 seconds. Let's lengthen out the stage. That gives us 95, 3,000 meters per second at delta V. And with this avionics, that looks pretty good. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of going with this kind of tank, we're going to literally just put the avionics in. We're going to take a conventional tank. We're going to make it a high pressure stringer tank. Turn that into a cone, and then we're going to use that as like this. Perfect. And we can lessen the fuel, so 95 seconds, 5.1 tons. So we're going to need a little bit longer avionics. So this will be 5 tons, or 6 tons will work at 1,000 EC. That gives us 3,000 meters per second delta V. We then have the hollow interstage, so we're going to ignite the main engine, and then we are going to hot stage the next engine. And that gives us delta V of 5,500 meters per second. It's actually not most. We might need to stick an aerobee on top instead. Yeah, I think the Scud's not going to work because of the high pressure. The dry masses are just really high, sadly. And so what we're going to have to do instead is go ahead and add in... Go ahead and add in a cone. And this cone is going to go into our aerobee we're going to. So we're going to grab the aerobee 2B. We're going to strip it of all of its avionics package, all of its payload. Get rid of the fins, get rid of the SRB. We are going to obviously keep the keep the avionics on top. So, like this is what we're going to do. We need to create a small interstage, because it's going to be hot staged. We're going to do 380 millimeters. We're going to then bring the top down until we hit it. And bring the stage correctly proportioned. There we go. So that gives us 6,800 meters per second in delta V, which is a lot. That will get us the 3,000 kilometer contract. Now for the larger contract, that's going to be a bit of a difficulty, but we should be able to achieve it. Now this is a nearly 19-ton vehicle. Good. We're going to now set up the spin. So that is where the current center of mass is. So we're going to add both of these, and I'm going to give it 0.5 each. We're then going to add this in, and this is generally speaking the rocket we're going to go for here. We're going to be able to upgrade the V2 launch complex to accommodate, and we don't need too much additional cost. The main cost is going to be the newer engine, but the rest of the components we've already tooled and or already have, so it's not too big of an issue for us. So we're going to test that this works. Now we get 6,700 meters per second delta V here, which is fantastic. So engine will fire, then aerobee, everything else will fire after that. We're going to, yep, we're correct. And we're going to call this the R1A, R1C. How about that one? And then we're going to simulate, and we're going to check that this will work. So basically, we're going to launch up, then we're going to point to 45 degrees, and then we're going, once the main engine starts to fall out, we're going to then launch the aerobee. Again, with the goal of getting as far downrange as humanly possible. So turn on guidance, 90 degrees, ignition of the engine, and we're going straight up very, very fast. And we're going to begin pitch maneuver. Okay, about 70 degrees. Just need to get... So now aerodynamic effects. We're 65. 55 seconds left. Begin pitching to 45 degrees. Okay, we pitched to 45. So now we're just watching this timer. We're watching until that gets to about 1 second, sub 1 second. And then we're going to stage with the second stage, which is this. $22 seconds, 19 seconds, 18 seconds. Okay. Timing's got to be good on this. We got to see if the spin stabilization will work its magic. Okay, that's not the greatest situation, but it is generally going in the right direction. The margin of error is not great on that, but it's generally doing its job. We need to check the flight recorder for downrange distance. We're currently 86 kilometers downrange, 90 kilometers. And we're accelerating pretty damn fast here. We've got another 30 seconds on this burn. There's the launch site, by the way, down there. Now 120 kilometers up. 17 seconds. I'm not going to time warp this, by the way, because when it's wobbling like this, it's not a good idea to do that. Okay, we're going to go over 1,000 kilometers up. And there we go. Engine cut off. And we're checking this. So, milestones are 3,000 and 4,500. Okay, this gives us 4,000 kilometers downrange. Yeah, 4,000 kilometers downrange, which we'll do initially. But we will need to find a way to improve the performance somewhat. Now, the RD100 can have its performance improved, like to the RD103, but the price there is it's exorbitant. So instead, we're going to upgrade the launch complex, and we're going to build that. And that'll be for our 3,000 kilometer downrange, but we will then need to probably add additional staging, or add a solid rocket motor, or something else to improve performance. So we're going to be going for the downrange 3,000 kilometer mark there. So that'll take 87 days and be relatively cheap. And so we're just going to time warp forward now. And we also have an aerobee. I'm going to do that one off screen quickly, just to get the additional science needed from the atmosphere. Okay, that's done. With that done, we now have 12.12 science, which is nearly enough to get both of the nodes, but we're going to go for early avionics and probes. We just need a little bit more science for satellite error science, which we should be able to get from another aerobee launch, which we should be able to schedule. So we're going to time warp forward. We're going to get ourselves basic rocketry, which is really nice to get. We're also going to grab avionics prototypes next. Launch Complex 2 finishes up. So we're going to need... So how many funds are we going to need for the R1C? So, we need... Let me check. So, we need 28,000 plus another 15. So we need like 28,000, maybe 40,000, which are a lot of funds when we think about it. But it's necessary to achieve objectives. If we can do both 4,500 and 3,000, then it'll be a worthwhile investment. So we're just going to time warp forward. We nearly have our primary LC done. We just need tech for it all. So we're now in 1954. We're going to try. Our goal is to try and beat the IRL first orbit date, which is around October of 1957, with the launch of Sputnik 1 by the Soviets. So with this, we can now tool. Good. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to order construction. There we go. So R1C on the way. And so we can reach 4,000 kilometers with this. Now, we'll have to see what we can manage to do with 4,000 kilometers, but we need to get to 4,500. So, it's going to be a bit of an effort. That's a long build time. We need to assign we need a lot more engineers for this. So I'm going to actually unassign these from here and start building into that. It's going to take 200 days to build, which is a bit much if you ask me. So we're going to hire more engineers. That gives us 99 engineers on that. We'll have satellite error material science finish up here shortly. We're going to need to start stockpiling a lot of funds. So yeah, I'm going to start rolling out. And let's do 3,000 kilometers downrange. We also finished up satellite material error science, which has now really increased our efficiency. So we now have access to this. We're going to need, so in terms of funding, there's going to be a lot we're going to need to spend. We have a lot of credit available, but there's going to be a lot of expense. All right, let's launch the R1C. And we're going to go ahead and try, and hopefully this will be a successful launch, get our 3,000 kilometer, then we need to get our 4,500 kilometer, which is even more difficult. Then we are done with that program, so that when we complete our satellite program, we can actually get the correct funding. Satellite simulation, we're going to ignite first, go straight up, and we're going to start ascending. We're going to start pitching. Pitch to 45. Alright. So far, so good. 25 seconds, 21, 18. Acceleration is very, very, very fast. Okay, that was a much better spin. That was much, much better. Staging. Let's see what kind of distance we get. We've got flight recorder open. This is our downrange situation. Let's turn ascent guidance off because we don't need it right now. And we also have smart ASS and flight engineer. So we're 90 kilometers downrange. We're basically on the prograde mark, which is fantastic. Again, we just have to reach a downrange of 2,000 kilometers to complete this initial contract. This engine should be pretty damn reliable at this point. Yeah, 97.9%, because we nearly have 10,000 DU on it from flying a lot of those biological experimentation missions with the same engine. I'm going to break quite a few records here in terms of speed records and also in terms of distance and altitude. Yeah, we reached a speed of 5,500 meters per second, and we're now going down range. We're going across the Atlantic Ocean here. We nearly reach Africa, but just not. We reach 4,060 kilometers, and we complete the contract successfully. But we are going to start breaking up. We need to reach 400 kilometers higher, and it would be a successful mission for our next contract. However, that is a successful launch, performed as good as I would imagine it, and that means that we are go ahead for 4,500. We're going to need to engineer a design that will work for that. So we'll have to begin looking into what is best for it. So we need 4,500. Now the difference with this one is that we need to both reach 4,500, but we also need to add 50 sounding payload on top of the thing, which is quite significant when it comes down to it. In terms of research, we'll have this done in 172 days, 55, 55, 10, 56. So we should have everything we need for orbit relatively soon. It's just about the money. Right now, most of our expenses are going into either going to be construction, maintenance, and some of the other stuff. So we're going to enter the vehicle assembly building. Two things I'm going to do. We're going to build another aerobee. And we're also going to start work on our 4,500 kilometer range vehicle. So let's do aerobee. And then for the R1C, we need to find a way to improve performance realistically. Now, an obvious way would be to get the RD-103. And I think that's what we're going to have to do, ideally. So we're going to fill this tank out. We have a maximum tonnage of this. That gets us 7,000 meters per second. We're then going to lengthen the tank. To 1,100 meters per second. We're going to go up here and we're going to make a new fuel tank. The RD-103 that we just put on, by the way, is what was used in the real life R5. We're going to use high pressure stringer tanks, and we're going to make that into sounding payload. We need to bring that down to 20 to 50 liters. I need to make sure it's actually the correct diameter, but then bring the length down to 50 liters. So that gets us 6,900 meters per second. So we do need to bring the tank out here. So something like 123. Would 7,200 meters per second do it? It might. One thing I do need to check, however, is mass. As in, where is our spin? We want it to be on the center of mass. There. That gives 7,200 meters per second. We need to make sure the avionics are in the right place. We can actually improve the avionics, which is going to improve our delta V. And then we can increase this to be 26 tons. We're going to change this to the R1D. And then we're going to simulate that if this will work. This is going to be quite a bit of cost. But if this works in terms of distance and range, this should complete the program for us and now allow us to completely move on to satellites. So overall, a good objective. So, ignition. Going up, begin pitch. Pretty damn stable, to be honest. Very high G's. We're at going to have a max SLT of 14. Jesus. Okay, that wasn't a great separation. Well, let's see where we end up. What we might need to do is increase the amount of fuel in that for it to actually spin, and then we also are going to probably need to be a bit more careful on our staging apparatus there. Looking good. 6,000 meters per second. We're looking for 4,500. It's looking like it. We actually achieved 5,500 kilometers, which is fantastic. So this will work for us. Let's get it going. So first off, we need to tool the rocket, and then we are going to upgrade the LC, R1D. Once that's upgraded, we can then start to build it. In the meantime, I'm going to launch that aerobee off camera and get that ready to go. Oh, I need to actually make sure staff are assigned to that, otherwise it's a bit of a problem. Because we do need a little bit more science. We need 1.6 more science before we can progress. Are you kidding me? Okay, so we're back. So we have 0.1 less science than is actually needed. We can also assign ourselves a chief designer now that we have the proper material science. So we've got many options. We got von Braun again. It's pretty nice. Plus 10% speed for all technologies. I think that's what we're going to be going for here. There's a lot of really good options. And I'm going to go for Werner von Braun. Because he gives us that plus 10%, so in just huge across the board in terms of research. However, we now are going to have the next launch complex 2, get upgraded to what we need to have it upgraded to for the new R1 rocket, and then we can launch that. And then with that launch, we can be pretty confident about what's next, which is going to be satellites. And we should be able to actually get a pretty good time on it. So let's go ahead for R1D. We want to get that built. So that's going to be in this area. We're going to add engineers. We're going to hire... We're going to need these engineers anyway because we're going to need them for... we're going to need them for the satellite, for the Alpha series of rockets. We're going to need quite a few engineers for those because of the size of the actual vehicle itself. So 84 days on that. We're now in 1955. And again, we need to start saving up as many funds as ideally we can get. Speaking of actually that, what is our current unlock subsidy? 64,000. So yeah, we're going to need quite a few because those engines are very expensive. Alright, let's launch the R1D. So this is going to be for 4,500 kilometers. Let's hope we can achieve it. I might not have accepted the contract. I need to check. Yeah, we did. Cool. So, guidance on, ignition, and liftoff. Begin pitch maneuver. And if you're interested, by the way, does this have an analog to real life? Yes, it does. It's called the Whack Bumper, which was where the US basically took a V2. They slapped a Whack rocket or Whack Corporal rocket on top of it, and they used it for upper atmosphere research. Though they didn't go as far as we're going today, it is a very much a thing that they did, and they achieved some pretty good success with it. Okay, looking good. We're at 45. Continue to go along. Let's hope the separation's good, because that is really the sketchy part of this launch, is the separation stage. Okay, separation went fantastic, I think because we held it for a little bit longer. So should be able to get some real distance downrange here. And again, we're carrying all that sounding payload. You have all the parameters correct. And we'll get another contract after this as well, which will be for 6,000 kilometers downrange. And that should give us some extra confidence, potentially, for future missions. 29 seconds, 28 seconds, and we're continuing to go down. Okay, we're looking for 6,000 meters per second delta V. Not 6,000 meters per second velocity, orbital velocity, to achieve here. But we're actually doing even better than our simulated test run, so we should be able to achieve this objective pretty easily. Very, very good. And let's see what we get downrange here. We're already 3.3, and we're just now coming down. And we're 4.5. We reached what a... We're going to break up at 5,500 kilometers, so a little bit under where we would want to be. However, successful mission, and we can now head back to Space Center, and we've completed that program. We may not want to complete it yet until we get the funding from it, because we don't have anything else to replace it right now, but also the new contracts that can give some confidence with longer range launches. We might as well think about that. See, 6,000 kilometers, we have 560 confidence from it, but we need 1,000 units of sounding payload on the rocket, and we need to go downrange 6,000 kilometers. We could do this with a first launch of our satellite, right, and of our satellite launcher, and that would get us quite a bit of confidence and reputation, so that is something to consider. Now, in terms of actually, getting that first satellite up, first thing into orbit, we're going to accept the artificial satellite, and I'm also going to accept the scientific satellite. So that's going to be 50 applicants, for the first artificial, and then we also get the first scientific satellite, which will be big. But for the first scientific, we need a little bit more science, which we actually do now have. We need satellite era science. We need to get that unlocked. And this also does, of course, mean that we need lots more researchers. We're currently making 164,000. We're going to hire 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. We're going to hire 300 scientists total. That is going to really reduce our funding, but we should be able to make enough funds here to achieve our objective. In terms of actually building out the Alpha 3 rocket, the Alpha 3 orbital launch vehicle, it's going to cost, let's check the actual cost on that vehicle for a second. So for the Alpha 3, it's going to cost us 87,000 funds to tool. It's going to cost 4,651 funds for a single launch of the vehicle. And in terms of building it, how many staffers do we need on hand? 492 is the max amount we need for it. So that's a lot of engineers we would need for this vehicle. So again, we just need lump sums of cash to really get it going. And then once we've got the thing going, we can really start to knuckle down. So again, we could complete this. However, there's nothing else that we can do right now that can really help. And I want the additional 80,000 funds. I think they're going to be very, very important. So we're going to go ahead and time warp forward here. Satellite era electronics just completed. That also increased our research efficiency, which is nice. And we now have early avionics and satellite era science to do. And then we have to do a bunch of other research as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch a scientific satellite for our first satellite. So let's get ready what we're going to put into orbit. We're going to try and do that first launch to put something into orbit. Again, we've still got about a year and a half or so before the real time, about 2 years actually, until the IRL Sputnik 1 first launched. So what we want is a avionics core. We're basically just going to make a cube. We're going to make a cube, and it's going to be a science core with avionics prototypes, or actually early avionics, and the entire purpose of the cube is to weigh a lot, and then to also have on it the radiation thing. But how long could this last? It can actually last quite a bit of time. So we just need to get the extra science research unlocked, and then we can begin to put on the radiation detectors. So if you don't know, this mission, the scientific satellite, is in reference to Sputnik 3, but also to Explorer 1. And both of these missions confirmed the existence of the Van Allen belts. And before that, they weren't called them, but these were large radiation belts found within proximity to the Earth. And we didn't know about them until we had a spacecraft that actually passed through. Explorer 1 famously was the first ever object to do so. While the Soviets had managed to reach orbit first, their first satellite Sputnik was not was a stand-in for their planned Sputnik 3 satellite, which was a lot more advanced and would be able to take advantage of the larger R-7 vehicle that they used to launch it on. So let's go ahead and keep going along here. How much do we have available? How much of our unlock? We have 120,000. So we nearly have enough just from that to buy the engines. So we're going to go ahead with satellite era science as well now. Good. Okay. We have satellite era science. We have the rocket. We have enough funds. We can do it. We might be lacking in terms of build time to build the first vehicle. Again, first vehicle is going to take the longest out of anything. But if we go ahead and we grab ourselves our Alpha 3, we're going to put the payload on. But the first thing we're going to do, we're going to tool the rocket. So that's going to cost us 87,000 funds to tool. Get everything up to snuff. And then we're going to put on our avionics. Early avionics core. We're going to put, we're going to make a literal cube. Literal cube. And again, we need to reach 1,000 kilograms with this. Satellite must be 1,000 kilograms, and we must be able to do some of the other defining characteristics there. So we're going to make it quite a big cube, and we're going to configure this to be a early avionics science core. I do want it to be a cube. There we go. And then we're going to add onto it a few things. We're going to add on a radiation detector, which is the most important thing. We're going to add on a mass spectrometer. We're going to add a early TV camera. And those things should work in time for what we need. If we turn on the all of these experiments, that gives us 82 days in space, which is pretty good. Actually, how long does the micrometeorite detector go on for? Duration 91 days. Well, this is 91 days itself. So if we just put a ton of batteries on this thing, like we're talking an absolute metric crap ton of batteries, and we add on the micrometeorite as well, yeah, we can do this. That's 500 kilograms. Yeah, this is a ton. Just a literal. We're literally setting up a brick with science stuff on it, and this will last 270 days. And we're going to put on as well a early magneto boom, which is the magnetic scan. So we're going to put that on. Not sure why it's clipping in like that, but we're going to do this. And then we got everything else I think that we need. Yeah, we do. So 270 days, we're going to put that on top of the vehicle. We just need to reach above 1,500 meters, and we have enough delta V to achieve that. So Alpha 3, I'm going to call this can't really call it Sputnik, can we? Let's call it the brick, because that's literally what we're doing. We're putting a brick in space. This is going to cost a lot more funds to build than I expected. I guess the avionics is just really, really expensive because it's all a service module tank. So we're going to go ahead and build it. Oh, we need to close this down. We're going to unlock. We need 87,000 funds, so we still don't have enough because this is going to cost us nearly over 200,000, so we need to wait again. However, we're going to be in a position here to be able to launch. We do have a deadline, if I do remember, however. Let me just check that deadline. We have a deadline for July 9th, 1958. So we're going to time warp ahead. I'm actually going to fire scientists. I'm going to fire half of them because we just need to get more funds in. Okay, with those funds, and we should also have more unlock credits. 132,000. And the rockets are a lot more expensive with the payload on top, I will say that. So maybe this is a bad idea. However, it's going to get us all our science, and it's going to get the contract done, which I call a big win. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit launch. Still not enough funds. Oh, not enough funds to launch. We need to wait a little bit longer as well. God. But we have unlocked the engines, all the other stuff that we need, and the tanks. And we're getting close here to the actual launch dates that we need to achieve. Now this is probably going to take a long time to build, I would imagine. So we need a lot of engineers working on this. Okay, I'm going to launch, and we're going to build I would like to build another one behind this because we're going to need another one for biological experimentation, the Sputnik 2 launch. Alright, so assigning up engineers. We're going to grab all these engineers. I'm going to put them on here. I'm then going to dismantle the V2 complex and the aerobie complex. And that's going to take 450 days on the Alpha series. So we're going to hire as many of these guys as we can and keep putting them on. Hire. More. We need as many as we can get. $335 engineers and 27 days to go. Funding has lowered. However, rocket is ready to roll out. That's going to take 12 days to roll out. And we're going to have that located on Launch Complex. Let's do, what was it? Launch Complex 17. 34. Let's use 34. No, 34 is Atlas pads. Let's use SL41. We're going to roll the rocket out. We've got the contracts accepted. We've got a lot riding on this launch. And we're about to go into the satellite age on 23rd of December 1956. So we're nearly a full year ahead of what it was IRL, which was October of 1957, was the first satellite to orbit the Earth. Well, if we're successful, that is, which is debatable. This is the first launch of all of these engines. Okay, we are ready to go. Ascent guidance ready. Flight recorder, a little bit of bugging out there. We want to reach a periapsis of 210. We're going to do a attach altitude, which is when we'll cut off the engines. And we need to reach a apoapsis of 1,600 on there. We have a very high SLT, so we're going to use that to our advantage. And we're going to look for launch here. So we have enough Delta V, it looks like. Let's launch. Okay, cut off. We just had 2 engines fail on pad. Okay, we'll go over to VAB. God damn it. How annoyingly climactic. Okay, we're going to have to roll the vehicle back. The vehicle has to be rolled back after the engines, 2 of the engines failed on the pad. Luckily, we had an automatic shutdown, and the vehicle is going to be able to fly. Funnily enough, this has happened IRL. I'm sure you'll be able to see on screen. This has happened in real life before, and that means, unfortunately, we're going to lose the window of 1956. We're going to have to launch in 1957. But we should still beat the Soviets to the first orbit. We can. Everything can work. Based on everything that we've seen, everything should be able to work. However, you know, it's possible that the rocket just explodes midair. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, this will be a long, industrious career for the vehicle. And we're really nail biting on the edge of the funds here. And we're going to need another vehicle on top of this to actually be able to achieve much else. Alright, launch, here we go. This should get us a lot more science though, and a lot of other stuff. So if this is a successful launch, everything opens up for us. Everything opens up for us. Alright. Engage autopilot. Cancel. Why is the Delta V not showing up correctly? Has one of the engines failed again? Shut down the engine, start the engine. Has that engine failed? What's the reporting ISP at? 255? Yeah, it looks like that failed again. We're going to have to record to VP again. Oh, God. This does not bode well for a rocket program. I'm going to roll it back into the VAB, and then we're going to roll it out again, and hopefully the engines work. These are supposed to be extremely reliable engines, by the way. But this is the first time they've ever been used, so you've got to keep that in mind. Okay, so I just want to make sure that the actual staging situation is correct before we go ahead and launch. Come on. We just need the rocket to work. So, Delta V readout looks good. Everything looks good. Save edits. We're going to roll it back out after we do some additional testing. Now the good news is the rocket hasn't destroyed itself every time it tries to launch. However, you know, it's not launched yet, which is kind of a problem. Okay, third time's the charm. Third time is the charm. Okay. Why is the Delta V readout so weird? It was working previously. Why? I do not understand. Two-engine. There's something going on here. There's something going on here. We're going to launch anyway. I'm going to go ahead with the launch. We have another failure. I might have to just cut this out and speed up until we actually get a launch success. Because obviously I'm just going to keep rolling back in and out until it actually works. I need to check the staging though, because there is something going on. I also need to check where we're tooled to correctly. Roll that back in, back out. We literally can't do anything. Our launch date is slipped like a month, 2 months at this point because of these failures. So edit the bloody vehicle, and I need to check this because it's reporting 10,000 meters per second Delta V, and we should be able to put a ton into orbit just fine. Do this. Do this. Bring this up. I blame him on that first failure. Okay. Bring the rocket up. Delta V wise, we put this here. Okay. Engines should be fine. They've only got 1,282 DU because of this. And that's not great that they're like that. Okay, we're going to say maybe I have to replace the engines because they failed. We'll have to see. I'm not sure. I haven't had a rocket have to come in and out like this many bloody times. Okay, 5th time's the charm. I mean, the Delta V I mean, it's reporting correctly, so I'm not sure why it's doing this. We'll go to the launch it anyway and see what happens. Because if the Delta V readout doesn't work again, because then there's obviously something seriously wrong. Okay, looks like Delta V readout is at least reporting better. So we're gonna go ahead and launch. Engines all ignition. Whoa! What? Hello? Okay, I'm reverting that. Why did we just flip? Is the gimbal dead? That's not supposed to happen. I'm not having that happen. What? That's funny though. Where is the prograde symbol? Command, control from here, control point, forward, reverse, default. What happens if we just launch straight up? Ignition. What is this? I'm gonna leave this in, but oh my god. What the hell? What the hell happened? There is something extremely wrong with this rocket. I've never seen this before. Is it because the launch pad? It must be. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? If we just ignite. Why is the prograde there? Is it because I placed the root pot? That is probably it, to be honest. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna fix this. Okay, we're back and hopefully working now. Need to check everything, but it came down to the engines. They were broken, and I had to do some things. We're 6 months later than we really should be, but we're going to ascend and hopefully get into orbit. Good first ignition on all the engines. We are ascending upwards beautifully and beginning our pitch maneuver. Going through max Q. And we are burning heavy and hard. We're going to get ready for booster separation here shortly. We pitched right over. Booster separation should start now in about 5 seconds. Boosters away. And we're continuing down range. We're going to get ready for fairing separation at 80 kilometers. Bearings away. There is the brick, the test brick, and we're continuing down range. Again, goal is to get to 210 by 2,000 kilometers orbit. We are now at 4,200 meters per second. We are continuing down range. Okay. And we have good stage separation. Good ignition on the second stage Gamma 201 engines. But in fact, these are actually British built. They were built for the Red Arrow and the Blue Streak, not Blue Streak, the Blue Knight, Black Knight. Basically British missiles and also eventually orbital launch vehicles. Britain was the only nation in history of humanity to develop orbital launch rocket capability and then get rid of that capability in favour of something else, and that something else at the time was scout rockets from the United States, which sadly actually cost more than it would have just to maintain the Black Arrow missile, an orbital launch vehicle. We're looking good so far. This engine just needs to do its full burn, or most of it, and we will have done our objectives. So we're now at 7,000 meters per second. We are nearly in orbit. And we are now in orbit. And we're continuing on again. We need to get to over 1,500 kilometers. Okay, we have good success. And engine off. The couple. And we have our payload in orbit. We have successfully put that payload in orbit. So now we're going to need to wait a little bit of time. So first off your satellite, complete. Then for scientific satellite, we're going to need to transmit quite a bit of stuff. We're going to start getting visible imaging and a bunch of other research. But we need to stay a day in orbit, and we also need to transmit 1 day's worth of science, and that's what we've done there. We have successfully put our first satellite into orbit around the Earth. And that is the orbit in question. A big success here for the space agency, and that is where we're going to leave the episode off, ladies and gentlemen. In the next episode, we are going to try to exploit our success in this field as we begin to look further afield from just Earth. Really start manufacturing these orbital launch vehicles more and more, and eventually think about, as I said, something a little bit further away. I'll see you guys later. Thanks to the members. Goodbye.